episode number 19. You are listening to the More Than a Lawyer podcast with your host, Janine Esbrand. I'm here to help lawyers and mums to thrive in their careers and motherhood. I share tips, strategies and inspirational conversation with awesome women to help you reduce the struggle in your juggle. Hello and welcome to the show. It's Christmas. I love Christmas. I hope you've enjoyed spending time with your loved ones and reflecting on the reason for the season. In today's show, I speak to Lulu Mins, a fellow lawyer and coach who shares with us her journey from being on the partnership track to starting her own business. We talk about all sorts, including equality for women in the legal profession, being yourself and still being successful, building your network within your industry, and being confident in your career decisions. It's a really good conversation, so without further ado, I'd like you to join me as we jump right in. Hi Lulu, I just want to welcome you to the show. I'm super excited to have you here with us today. Would you please go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, my name's Lulu Mins. I'm the owner and founder of Advocate My Success, which is coaching for women in the legal profession who are ready to start dreaming bigger, redefining success and living life on their own terms. It's a pleasure to be here and chatting to you today.
Thank you for that. We will get more into talking about your coaching of women in the legal profession because I think my audience would find what you have to share really interesting and useful. Before we do that, do you want to share with us a bit about your journey? So I know, like me, you trained as a lawyer and that's how you started out your career. So it'd be great if you could share about your journey to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I trained as a lawyer. I originally studied a criminology degree, always with a view to converting that into law and practicing criminal law, and that's exactly what I did. I, even before I did my conversion, started working for a criminal defence firm when I finished my main degree, and I stayed at that firm my entire career. I started on work experience, and by the time I left, I was head of department.
Wow.
Interview for partnership, etc. When I left. So that was 11 years in total that I practiced criminal defence for. And I would say I loved probably 8.5, maybe 9 of those years, for sure. But in the last 2 years of my career, I really wasn't where I wanted to be in terms of, and suddenly my goals changed, actually. Mm-hmm. I think as we know as fellow lawyers that partnership is the ultimate goal and that's what you work and climb the corporate ladder for, but suddenly I changed, the job changed, and it just didn't really seem like anything would change for me if I got that promotion.
Okay.
So I'd already started to investigate entrepreneurship, really. I knew I wanted to have my own business. I just didn't know what it looked like. So I'd already investigated a few ideas and things like that when I was asked to come in for an interview for partnership, and had kind of already made my decision that this wasn't for me for the next 35 years, that's for sure. So, and I ended up leaving quite quickly and not going back. That wasn't really part of the original plan. But I was put on paid leave and I just thought there's this whole world out there that I haven't discovered, and that's what I wanted to do. So that's exactly what I did.
So exciting. I think, like you said, for a lot of people, you aim for partnership, and when you first start out in your career, it's like, okay, I want to work really hard, get my head down, and that's where I'm going to be. But you don't realise that as you're on that journey, your perception changes, you get exposed to things, you realise what it really is, and then you have to get to a stage where you decide whether that's what you really want. So, but taking that plunge to leave when you were that close must have been pretty hard to do. So talk to me a bit about that decision process. Like you said, it happened pretty quickly, but how did you just say, yes, people are probably going to think I'm crazy. I don't know actually what I'm going to do, but I'm going to take this jump anyway.
Yeah, I know. I think I was, when I got a call about the partnership, I wasn't surprised because I'd been fairly vocal about a few opinions that year anyway. But I was on a flight to New York. I was literally about to get on a flight for a holiday to New York. So the timing, in a weird way, couldn't have been better. because I was walking away from my life as I knew it.
Yeah.
And it really gave me some clarity, actually, of I really am not where I want to be, and the partnership, and including actually when I got the email about partnership, I felt flat. I didn't feel anything, which was a massive sign that actually I'm not bothered. And then I got myself all rolled up and excited about it for a week, thinking, oh, this is what I've worked for, but it was forced, and I could just feel that these little niggles that I'd had for 2 years, but I'd ignored and buried them.
Yeah.
Were actually my reality, that it didn't really matter to me, which was a big shock, but it was a bigger shock to everyone else rather than me, to be honest.
Sure.
I think everyone else thought I'd gone crazy and I was losing it and all of that. So that was probably one of the most difficult challenges when you leave a profession like the legal profession, and particularly when you're successful.
Yeah.
And everyone sees you as success, and you're good at what you do, you've got a talent for what you do, you've got a client, I had a massive client base, etc. But it's just not what I wanted anymore. But trying to convince everyone else of that was probably the biggest hurdle.
Yeah, I can absolutely understand that. As we'll get into you talking about you coaching female lawyers, and I coach female lawyers who are transitioning into motherhood, and I find that the perception that people have is something that really influences the decisions that people make. So they don't always make it from a place of, this is what I want to do. They think, well, if I don't do this, what are other people going to think? Or if I make this decision, how are people going to view me? And so it's really, really important to be able to separate the two and figure out, am I making the decision because I want to, or am I making it because I think I should be making it?
And it's funny, it's a topic that everybody has an opinion on. I was chatting to someone about it the other day, and he has a niece who's a lawyer, and said, oh, she was going to leave her career, and I told her that's ridiculous and you can't do that. And and he really was animated, not realizing he was talking to someone that had done exactly that. That's how the conversation had started. And I actually really felt for this girl, because I've been there myself. And family, they do it because they love you, and they are genuinely concerned. But actually, you need to, just because you have a law degree and you have a successful career, it doesn't mean your life's mapped out for the next 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
And that's when my fear of actually what that would look like became bigger than just my fear of changing it.
Yeah.
That's when I realised I had to change it. But as you say, we're all influenced by other people's perceptions and other people's beliefs and other people's thoughts of what we should and shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a bit about how you then got into coaching, because when the world of coaching opened up to me, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I just want to help people on a more personal level than how I was helping them as a corporate lawyer. And then I learned more, did my training, hired a coach, and I haven't looked back since then. So tell me a bit about your experience with coaching and how you got into actually becoming a coach.
Yeah, my experience, it happens quite organically, I guess. When I started off having a dating business initially with another lawyer, and then I had a feeling that it still probably wasn't what I should be doing, and it was going to take quite a lot for it to pay my bills, my mortgage and stuff, because by this point I was like, I'm not going to go back and practice. So I came across network marketing initially, and the mentoring of a team is what really drew me in, and the big kind of female presence. There were lots of women supporting and empowering other women, and coming from the corporate world, you will know as well, it's just not, I didn't really ever feel supported by female colleagues above me in the profession. So it was really refreshing actually to be around people that were collaborating and not competing with one another. And mentoring is always something that's attracted me. Certainly when I was young and a little bit naive and going into the criminal law world, I felt I would be able to have a bigger impact with my clients than in reality I could, because it's far down the line by the time you're involved with helping them with the situation they've got. There's only so deep you can go. So I was interested. Coaching was kind of on my radar, but everything I came across was quite corporate and business, and I'm a very business-minded woman. I always have been, but I was kind of trying to get away from the corporate. I'm also a very highly free-spirited person, and the older I've got, the more that's come out. So I kind of didn't want this kind of really corporate thing going on, to be honest. So that turned me off. And then when I came across my coach and the way she does things, it's very feminine, but it's very strong. It's very women supporting women, and it's not anything excluding men or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just women empowering women, and I think that's incredibly important. And there's still a massive gap in the profession in terms of equality, but I think underneath it, it's women not supporting women is where the problem is, not men.
Yeah.
So once we start to support and empower one another, and that's what my coaching is all about, and yours, it's, you know, we can do incredible things when we help each other move forward with our beliefs and our real desires of what we actually want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I don't know about your experience, but I think working alongside many lawyers and being in that kind of environment, when you first qualify, you look ahead or look above you to see what you should be doing, that will equate to success. So you don't really know what the roadmap is. So you kind of look to people above you. And then you think that you have to act like that or be like that or take that approach to be a successful lawyer. And I think it's really important for people to really embrace who they are as an individual and figure out, how do I leverage my skills? How do I leverage who I am so that I can be a good lawyer, but at the same time be true to myself. So I just wondered, do you feel like people that you've come across struggle with that in terms of just being like, I am quirky or I am free spirited, but I'm still a good lawyer? Do you think people as women try and fit into a mold of what a successful woman
And
looks
looking
like?
back, even I did, and I didn't realise that's what I was doing at the time. Not wholeheartedly, but I probably wasn't, and I was probably known for being, it's not odd, but having, being into stuff that my colleagues weren't, and that was definitely noticed. But I probably didn't. The whole corporate world kind of kept a lid on it without me even realising, I think, which is why I felt quite suffocated towards the end. The older I got, the more I was like, oh my God, I can't, and I do, now I look back, feel like I was playing a role to some degree of a professional, but that can seep into other areas. And it was when the partnership thing was coming up and I actually felt like, and, there were a few conversations, etc., that I would have to change my personality to be part of that club.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm not interested, absolutely not interested in zipping up and not being me. And the older I got, the less interested I was in doing that. So, and I think to a certain degree you have to do it, particularly, in the area of law I was practicing, it's crime. So, you're facing various situations which can potentially be threatening and all of that. So as women, you kind of, and there's so many women in the profession that we have to front it out, and that's not always our natural state to be this kind of. And I remember one of the first times at court really realizing, I spoke to a prosecutor and he spoke to me like I was something he just stepped in. And I was young, blonde, in my early 20s, and I remember thinking then, right, if I'm going to be listened to, I'm going to have to become a force of nature. Which I did, and I was known for it. I remember someone saying to me, Louise has brought in her invisible baseball bat and just whacked the prosecutor around the head. But, and I was so forceful towards the end. But, I had to be like that to be a woman in the profession and to be taken seriously. Because if I was kind of too feminine or too soft or all of that stuff, I wouldn't get listened to. So that kind of became exhausting. And then the authentic kind of side of me, I now go to yoga all the time, I meditate, and that's kind of seems much more natural to me now.
I love what you said before about, the fact that we don't have that support necessarily, like women supporting women. And I think having a network is so important, especially now that I've become a mother. Having other women who are going through the same thing as you at the same time is just so invaluable. So what advice would you kind of give to, say, a junior lawyer or an associate who's in her career and really wants to do well and succeed, but doesn't want to be a solo show, that doesn't want to be that person who's just trying to compete with everyone else. Do you think there's room for like collaboration and networking within the profession?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is room for collaborating and setting up, proper friendships within not only where you're working, but other places as well. And I wish that I'd done that a lot more. I mean, I'm still friends with lots of, women in the profession, probably more so now that I've left, because before that we were kind of in competition. That firm's in competition with that firm. Don't take my client from court and all of that stuff. Although I was always a supporter of younger women in the profession that came in and, particularly on work experience and stuff as well. And many of them are still in touch with me. So I think definitely networking with those that you are working with and setting up those friendships, because you become much stronger together. But also, as young women in the profession, going out and, the beauty of LinkedIn and social media these days, chat to some people on there that have been doing it a bit longer than you, and reach out, because they'll have some advice for you. And it's always nice, I think that women that are more experienced in the profession do want to help younger women, and it's great to have a network outside of where you are as well. Because I think if I'd had that 2 years ago when I was in that place, oh God, what do I do now? I don't want to do this. Trouble is, when you talk to everybody else that's in your network, they're always going to either support you, they've heard about other people before, and that everyone's got an opinion. It's not an objective view. Whereas if you've got a network or someone outside of, they don't know your colleagues and they don't know this, that and the other, they just can hear your perspective. They'll be able to give you a much more objective view of what you're facing. Sometimes we're so close to it we can't see what's right in front of us.
Absolutely. That is brilliant advice. And you mentioned LinkedIn, and I'm on there, and I think pretty much every lawyer is probably on there, but I don't think everybody uses it to they don't maximize the use of it. And I know you've done some kind of social media work and helping other people use and grow and learn about social media. So what would be like your top tip for someone who wanted to do that, who wanted to reach out to people on LinkedIn or use it as a tool to grow their network? How do you go about that? Do you just add people, or do you reach out to them by sending them a message? What do you think is the most effective way of doing that?
On LinkedIn in particular, I would say it is working with your initial network, and then reaching out to those people that are kind of on the periphery of it, so a mutual contact or something like that. If there's someone that interests you, to send them a request and then chat to them, because there's no point in having people kind of on your network if you don't reach out. And I've made some amazing connections on LinkedIn, yourself included. And it just by thinking, God, that person looks interesting, I'll send them a request and then have a chat and see what we've got in common. And so some incredible business collaborations and things like that can happen. And I chat to a lot of people on LinkedIn, younger and women that are in a similar position. So probably the main two that I speak to are definitely younger women in the profession, because there's a lot of want of support there, but also quite a lot of the criminal defence lawyers, because I know what we've been through the last 5 years. Like I said, all my goals changed, and that's absolutely the case. We were under a hell of a lot of pressure in the last 5 or 6 years, so I know how tough it has been for all of them in the profession. So that's just a natural conversation point for us.
I think that is really, really useful. I'm not sure that people would necessarily think to do that, because you learn traditional ways to network. So you go along to networking events that are run by your firm, and you kind of follow that, collect the business card and try and send emails to people to follow up with them and arrange lunches and stuff like that. But actually leveraging social media, I would say people should really, really be doing that to grow their network and connect with people.
Yeah, and I exactly just sort of hit the nail on the head there. I treat social media exactly the same as were I at a networking event. It's the same thing to, be polite. Don't send someone a message saying, will you buy, my program? Will you come and hold my hand at a meeting tomorrow? Whatever it is. It's all about building a relationship and seeing how you can help each other. And that's what, normal networking is about. But we can just do it online now. So it's so easy, and there's, you know, all these amazing people out there that can inspire you and show you what's possible. So I quite often say to my coaching clients, you know, if there's someone that you're jealous of, you're thinking, oh wow, look at their career, or look at their lifestyle, or look at what they're doing, reach out to them. It's only a sign for what's possible for you as well.
Yeah.
So take that jealousy as a positive thing, not a negative, you know, which again, corporate world teaches us to think, oh, what a cow, she's got X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But instead, if you think, wow, you know, instead I'll reach out, she's someone that I'd like to learn from.
Yeah, and I found that as well as I've got more and more into this entrepreneurial space and growing my business, that from the outside looking in, you look at somebody's website and you look at their presence on social media and you think, oh, they're doing really well. And then when you speak to them, yes, they are doing very well, but you get to learn about their journey and the fact that their journey might be quite similar to yours in that it's not easy, it's quite difficult in the beginning, it takes time. So one of the quotes I really like is where I can't remember who the person who said the quote, but it is, don't compare your chapter 1 with someone else's chapter 20. And I really like that. I think it applies if you're growing a business, but it also applies in your career. So when you look around, you think, oh, look, she's doing so well. And then you get down on yourself. Just think about, well, you know, she's so many years ahead of me, or she's had different experiences to what I've had. So it is going to be different, but then use that as a motivation to move yourself forward, as opposed to getting down on yourself and not liking the person, even though you haven't really got to know them.
Yeah, definitely. And always take that sign of whatever struggle that you're in or finding, that is something you're going to be able to use to help someone else at a later date. There is a reason that
absolutely.
we experience things in a particular way, and it's kind of who we become coming through that we can draw those people closer to us and help them as well. That's certainly, you know, how I view it. And you're definitely right, being an entrepreneur is not all a bed of roses either at all.
It's definitely a roller coaster ride, I think, up and down.
Yeah, which is why it's so important to surround yourself with other people in the same, you know, that have either been through that journey or they're going through it or whatever, which again is such a shame that that's not in the legal profession. Really, everyone kind of just, you know, keeps it all to themselves and this, that and the other. And, you know, again, go back to the younger people in the profession, there's a lot of people really struggling in the early years of the profession. They've got about 25% chance of getting a training contract.
Oh yeah, don't tell me. It was just so hard.
Yeah, it's well, mine was how long ago now? 12, 13 years ago. So it was tough then, but it wasn't as, you know, half as tough as it is now, or was 5 years ago even. So I didn't particularly struggle, but I know people that did. But it's just got worse and worse and worse.
And when I was applying for mine, I did struggle because I don't have kind of a background of lawyers in my family or in my immediate network. So I felt that I was just figuring the whole thing out myself. Like, how do I get into this profession? What do I need to do? How do I go about it? And it wasn't until somebody from my church said, oh, do you know that so-and-so is a lawyer? And I reached out to her and she looked at my application form and one of my application forms and my CV, and she literally sent me an email and said, if you're having a bad day, don't open this. And I was like, okay. So I opened it and it had so many red track changes on it. It was like she literally tore it to pieces. And what she had said was, you've had so much good experience. You've done so much, but you are not selling yourself at all. Like, you're just stating all this information that isn't selling you in any way, shape or form. And so although it was a bit of a slap in the face, having all those those red marks on it, it was
kind of mentoring. She was kind of mentoring.
She turned into my mentor, and it was like, I without her, I think I wouldn't have figured it out on my own. So the fact that she took the time out to do that for me, and then going forward we would have catch-ups and we would talk about my journey. And after she did that for me, I landed so many training contract interviews and got to a place where I was able to choose which firm I wanted to go to, and I would forever be grateful to her for that. And I think as women in the profession and as coaches now, we are able to help other people to like really fulfill their potential, because sometimes they're just missing a little tool or an approach, a little small piece of the puzzle, and they've done so much and that little small piece is holding them back from just being amazing. So I love the fact that I get to, you know, help other people along the way and get that satisfaction from seeing them.
No,
really.
absolutely. I mean, when I got my training contract, I was, well, not lucky in the sense, but because I lived in Brighton, I'd moved back there. There's 2 universities there, loads of law firms, but I sent loads of applications for work experience. And then I just applied to one way off the beaten track in Worthing. But I had that thought process. I remember thinking, I'll just pick one from there because there's no universities there.
Oh,
so they won't have a throw out of all
yeah.
law students. And they were the only people that got back to me, and I had an entire 11-year career there. So just that one decision was a smart move. Only one. I didn't hear from any of the Brighton firms whatsoever. And it was just that one firm in a small town, you know, 20 miles from where I lived, where there's not a university or much good education there. So, you know, just those little things. And I think so often as well these days people go for the big firms and the big, you know, this, that and the other. And there are all those high street firms and those things available to you. But it's also being clear, I think, of why, you know, what area you want to practice and why you want to practice. So for me, crime, you know, that was it. I had no interest in anything else.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I just picked up on what you said is like really thinking about being strategic about what it is you're trying to achieve in terms of the role. And so I think as well with, you know, when women get to a place where either they are feeling a bit disillusioned with where they are or they enter motherhood and things change for them, one of the things I like to encourage people to do is think outside the box with your options. It doesn't necessarily have to be all or nothing. You don't have to say, you know, I don't really like practicing as much and I would like to pursue other things, so I have to completely leave the law. Like, you can find a way to still be a lawyer in a flexible way while you're pursuing other things, or if you're a mother, you can work part-time, and if your firm isn't supportive of that, there's other options for you. So it's really important to...
It is. And I would say as well, big passion of mine at the moment is that for qualified lawyers that are where they are, if they're not happy, and I would have considered this had I been happy practicing law, but I just knew that was the end of the road for me. And criminal law is a little bit different because you have to have contracts from the government, etc. So you can branch out on your own, but with everything that's gone on, it's difficult. You know, gone are the days actually where you need a firm. It's absolutely gone. And the firms know it, which is why they're not treating their staff very well. And they haven't got a clue about social media and all of that stuff. Is, you know, if you've got a passion for a particular topic or whatever it is in the law, go out and do it. Get a platform, be it LinkedIn, be it YouTube, be what it is.
Absolutely.
Because from any client's point of view, they are interested in the lawyer. They're not interested in the firm. They haven't been for a long time. And it was the same for me, you know, even in crime, it was they asked for me. They didn't ask for the firm. They asked for me. I was the person they were interested in. I was the person they wanted to be represented by. And I think, so, you know, get your name out there, and the whole world's your oyster these days.
Yeah, and I think it really comes down to the fact that people like people. And so I think for a long time being a lawyer had this connotation of being quite stuffy and using really big really complicated language that people don't understand. But when you can show that you're intelligent enough to, you know, take a really abstract concept and break it down for somebody, and also be really personable and have like a good conversation and be friendly and you know, just break down those barriers that are sometimes there when you're trying to work with a client, then people are going to come back to you and they're going to recommend you to other people. So that's where allowing your personality to come through can really be great for you as a lawyer trying to build up their reputation and their practice. And I love what you said about doing it yourself. I had an interview with a lawyer who was working as a IP lawyer for a law firm for a long time, and then she decided to go out on her own, and now she does IP work, sort of copyright and trademarks for creative entrepreneurs, because those are the type of people she likes to work with. So now she has a practice filled with the types of clients that she loves to work with, so she doesn't have to take on work that she doesn't enjoy doing. So I just think that's amazing.
It's amazing. And you can really, you know, if you've got a little niche like that of something that really interests you, then you can really establish yourself as an expert within that area by, you know, picking 2 social media platforms and really, you know, and getting a coach that knows what they're doing, or a coach in that particular social media platform that can help you utilize it and market it correctly, because that's something that lawyers lack severely is marketing.
Yes, yes, it's so true.
Particularly in this day and age. But, you know, that it is open to people to really establish themselves as an expert, and the public, you know, will respond much better to that, on businesses and all of that kind of thing. So it's an exciting time to be a lawyer, but I think it's still very stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the old way of doing things, and something huge is starting to shift. Very slowly, but
it's
it will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this has been so good chatting to you. So one of the things I love is inspirational quotes, because they just stick in my mind and I love to share them with other people. So can you share with me one that you really like, an inspirational quote that you share, that you like?
Yes, Maya Angelou is my favourite for quotes.
Me too.
I
love her.
She's it's very poetic in her quotes. So success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it is an absolute favourite quote of mine. But also, and I can't remember who it is. Is it Charles Swannell, I think, or something like that? Probably one of my favourites, particularly at the moment, is life is 10% of what happens to you. No, life is 90% of what happens. No, life is 10% of what happens to you, and 90% of how you react to it. Because that is, it's a starts the whole thought process, that really. And I think particularly in this day and age, again, I love social media and the way technology's changing business and freedom for people, but we let other people dictate our day also, which is why people are finding themselves lost and stuck and not being able to move forward, because they're not setting the intention for their day and they're just responding to what everyone else wants and what everyone else needs. So that is huge.
Absolutely.
It's something that really resonated with me.
Yeah, and I literally yesterday was listening to something about a book. You may have come across it. It's called The Miracle Morning.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I was. Have you read it?
Yes.
Oh, I haven't read it yet. So I came across it. I've heard a few people talk about it on sort of business related podcasts. And then yesterday I was looking into it a bit more, but I love the concept of just really setting your day up for success and spending time kind of in meditation, praying, like quiet time, reading and exercising, all that stuff before you even get into your day, so that your day is set up for success, as opposed to just rolling out of bed, checking Facebook, and then having breakfast and brushing out the house.
Yeah, and journaling is a fantastic way to do it. And I heard someone, I can't remember who it was now, on a podcast say the other day, it's the Western world's way of meditation is journaling, and to get your thoughts out and work out what it is that you're thinking, which meditation helps with that as well. But I do both every single morning without fail. It's a non-negotiable for me, and it's essential, I think, in having a business, full stop. But also just being in business, be it law or whatever, in setting your intention for your day, because otherwise you become all lawyers, we're there to serve other people, and then you can make that your whole life, that you get lost in the middle. And that's exactly what happened to me. Instead of reacting, I was a defence lawyer. I was trained to react. So I'm always waiting for something to happen, and I have to jump in and react. So, you can get really lost in that process if you're not tuning in with you every day and seeing. And it's so difficult. It's such a difficult thing to do at first. If you're not used to it and you're busy being busy, you will convince yourself you haven't got time. But it's crucial, which I say, to creating your life and not reacting to it.
Absolutely.
Create it instead.
Yeah, and for me, I guess my practice is to like, I'm a Christian, so I really spend time reading the Bible and I spend time praying. And I find that when I say to myself, oh, I'm just too busy, I just can't fit it in, is when things just go crazy. Like I need to have that time to come back to center and just know, okay, what is the bigger picture? Don't get too caught up in the small things. And it isn't all about just rushing around all the time. There's things that are important, so you need to prioritize those things. So
it just shows what huge value past spiritual practices have, and how we've lost that in modern times. But we're also, I think I read the other day something, the millennial generation are the most oppressed generation already. because but it's probably because they're on,
On their
their
phone all the
technology
time.
all the time.
No break, yeah.
Yeah, no space to think or anything like that. Which the average smartphone user, we check our phones every 6.5 minutes,
Wow.
and I've definitely been guilty of
Me
that.
too. I need to go on a smartphone detox, I've decided.
Yeah, absolutely. I did that when I went on holiday, and I delete my favourite apps every now and then just for a week, because I find for at least the first 24 hours I'm constantly, oh God, I haven't got that app, but that's when it needs to go. It needs to go
Yeah,
for
I
a week
totally
or two.
agree.
You don't miss it too much after a day or two.
Yeah, I totally agree. Oh, it's been so great catching up with you. Now, if people want to get to know you a little more, if they want to connect with you, I know you're on LinkedIn. Where else are you? Where can they check you out?
I'm on LinkedIn. I am on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page called Advocate My Success, which is the name of my business, of course. And I do lots of videos, blogs and things like that on there. I'm also on Instagram under Advocate My Success as well. And my website is www.advocatemysuccess.com. And I've also got a YouTube channel as well. So all my blogs are uploaded on there afterwards.
Great. So I will put links to that in the show notes, which people can find when they head over to the Lightbox Coaching website. And yeah, people can click on those and connect with you. But it's been awesome chatting with you. It's always nice to connect with a fellow lawyer, and now a fellow lawyer and a fellow coach is just amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, no, I love to meet lawyers that are doing all sorts of different stuff as well, and it's been great to connect. And thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, it's been great to have you, Lulu. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure you would agree that it takes a lot of courage to walk away from a career that you have spent over a decade building, but Lulu's story is really inspiring. If your decisions about your career direction means changing course, it can be difficult and it can be daunting, but I hope listening to Lulu has inspired you to just embrace it and know that all of your time and experience is not wasted, and that you'll be able to use that in whatever you choose to do now. So yeah, if you're going to be making some tough decisions, career decisions in 2017, then I hope you can draw on the inspiration from our chat. If you want to connect with Lulu and learn more about her, head over to the show notes at lightboxcoaching.com/episode 19 to get the link to her site and her social media handles. Right, now I have to share with you guys something I've been thinking about for a while, and something that has been a tough decision for me, but one that I think is necessary right now. So I have loved hanging out with you over the past 19 weeks. This podcast has been amazing. I've had the opportunity to meet and connect with a whole load of awesome people. I mentioned to you in the last episode that I'm expecting baby number 2. And because of that, I have decided to take some time out to enjoy my pregnancy, to spend more time with my toddler before 3 become 4, and to prepare for being a mother of 2. So that means that next week's episode will be the final episode of season 1 of the More Than a Lawyer podcast. I'm not saying we're going away forever. I plan to be back for season 2 and launch that in 2017, but I'm just not quite sure when that will be just yet. So if you have loved this podcast and you've enjoyed listening and you want to be the first to know about when season 2 will be launching, then please drop me an email at janine@lightboxcoaching.com and I will add you to my mailing list, and I will be sure to keep you updated about when we will be back on air. But please join us next week for our final episode. I look forward to hanging out with you then. So that's all from me for now, and in the meantime, look after you and look after your babies, and I'll catch up with you next week. Bye. The More Than a Lawyer podcast features music from Ben Sound.